We deserve the best. You go to Kaluma's post, and please don't usikimbia hapo, is talking about tribal all the time. You go to Wamunyore, it's tribal all the time. So it tells you people are still stuck in those two categories, and they were saying we are the majority, we are special. If you go anywhere, we are the most hardworking. I didn't talk about committee. Hata sasa sitataja committee. I'm like, those are stereotype. You're stereotyping yourself and saying we are better than the other people. And that's the two categories. You'll find among the same people in that space, there are people who say I'm a Kikuyu, but I'm not better than the Luo or the Kamba. So I think I've come to that realization. I'm sleeping better at night now, coming to that realization that we have these two groups, wanaoiba according to professor na wanaibiwa, and until the wanaoibiwa decide tunaibiwa pamoja, until the clusters reduce. The very last one before my mic drops, because it always does, is I had the misfortune this evening of watching Brian Obura of Nation doing that serial killer guy of 2019, the young man who had killed so many people, who just walked out of a cell. And you have you ever been in a cell? How can you let yourself out of a cell? We had another serial killer recently let themselves out of a cell. So something is very telling. It's being exposed. And I will continue to thank the young people of this country for the boldness. And I don't think they know where that courage came from. It came from the oppression. It became unbearable. So the silent majority, I'm hoping that's what is going to reset this country. And these splits that we have, when we realize in our small cliques kuna good and evil, among the clergy, good and evil, among the politicians, good and evil, can we then come together, all those people who stand for whatever things are good, whatever things can sustain this nation? Because this nation is going to fall apart, honestly, until we keep talking. I was telling a friend of mine, I've actually decided to officially tell myself I'm in the group that will die for this nation. Whether now my family will be left mchangering or celebrating that I had the courage to speak up is up to them. It's not up to me. So I tell people every day, go according to your conviction. And I'll say, I think I've already decided that I will have a presidential favorite, and it will not be the usual, the lesser evil. For the first time in this country, I hope millions of us can say evil is evil. Because for the longest time, we've been told lesser evil. Then lesser evil got into a broad-based arrangement with bigger evil, and the country is falling apart. So I hope for the first time in this nation, people are going to vote and say we are tired of evil. Hata kama vote yako itakuwa tutakuwa sisi wawili, if I can convince 254 we vote together, we will not vote for evil anymore. That's why this country is where it is. And the making of a nation is we've been overrun by evil. And let's stop calling it the system. Let's call it for what it is. It is evil for someone to steal so much, they think they own this country. For someone to kill without feeling any remorse, that it is just plain evil. So may we overcome evil with good. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Redemptor. Prof, this is your chance to make your contribution. And particularly, I've listened to you on several occasions. There's much that you know about the political class. You've interacted with some of them. You probably are friends with most of them. What do you make of how they look at this nation? Do they want a united country that is progressive, meant for the betterment of this country, or they are doing everything they can to stay in power, not for purposes of posterity, but for their own interest? I'd like to hear what you take, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much, team. I was just coming up from a certain meeting. Then when I find Mizani, and I said, wacha niingie Mizani kidogo. Kwa sababu I could see the true progressives. And I want to take this chance to really thank you guys for this conversation. Many people can take this for granted. Many people might think we're just talking, and many people may think that words have no impact, but they do. There's a gentleman who made a submission. I didn't see who he is, but he was just simply saying that he talked about the system, that this is a colonial system since 1963. It touched me. Yeah, it just touched me deeply. So let me start by saying the following, that what makes a nation, have you heard, for those of you who live in Europe, have you heard about a town called the Basque Country? If you go to Spain, there's part of Spain which is called the Basque Country. Um, the Basque Country is part of Spain, but they call them a country because they were not in a nation. So you could start finding that some people call themselves in Kenya the Luo nation. Then there's a Kikuyu nation. Then there's the Kamba nation. Why do you think that this word nation is becoming very important in Kenya and being tribal? That we have the Kalenjin nation, we have this nation. So if you hear someone calling themselves a nation inside a nation or a nation inside a country, so one thing you can deduce is that a country is more geographical, like Kenya, and a nation is more what you feel. So it comes from a feeling of loving something over the other. So if you love Kikuyuism over Kenya, then actually you are in a Kikuyu nation. You're not in Kenya as a nation, but you are in Kenya as a country. So Kenya can be a country whether we love it or not, whether it's burning on fire like Somalia is a country, they burn it down. You go to South Sudan, they don't like it, they burn it down. You go to DRC. So we are still a country. We are not yet a nation because a nation means that you must feel your primary obligation to a certain group. When I was an economist, European Central Bank, I was being asked a very tough question. Why do you think the euro was actually not as stable as the dollar? And I said that, well, the dollar was set up to manage the whole American economy, but the euro was also meant to manage the European economy. But the difference is that Americans feel American, but Europeans, they feel, first of all, I'm Greek first, then I'm Spanish first, then is when I'm European. And you see, now that brought a lot of fiscal differences, and people feel like Greece should be better than Spain, and Spain should be better than Portugal, and Portugal should be better than this country. And that's actually what makes the fiscal policy not stable, and that's what made the euro also unstable. So the feeling of being one country, being one nation together is strong. In Kenya, people are another tribe first before they are actually Kenyan. Like now, we are with Redemptor in Malindi, and someone started chanting by saying, watu wa bara warudi bara, kwa sababu ODM has been dominating coastal province without bringing development. And then they are realizing that Raila has used them. Now Raila has even left them because Raila has no need for them because Raila will not run for president again. So they have just been left. So they're realizing there's something now they call in Malindi or Kilifi blood O. This blood O, which is Onyangos, Ogolas, Ojuangs, this blah, blah, blah. Then last time I told them, look, we have intermarried with you. You cannot even dismiss us. The blood has mixed too much that you should even forget about this thing of saying, oh, this and that. Anyway, I was just using this example to talk about what do I mean by a nation. A nation is what you primarily feel love for, what you are first proud of. Am I first of all proud for being a Luo, or first I'm proud of being Kenyan? And if you ask yourself this question and realize that you are first of all feeling proud to be a Kikuyu, then actually you should belong to the Kikuyu nation, not Kenya as a nation. Kenya remains a country for you, which you use for your passport, use it for your birth certificate, use it for your ID, use it for whatever you want to use it, or you call it home, but it's not your home. Your home is Kikuyu nation, Luo nation, Kalenjin nation, and the rest. And the question you ask, moderator, in the beginning is that you have to know that these politicians, they are actually feeling, they see Kenya as an asset they use for their gain. When you say to them, I won't say I'm friends to them. I won't just say I've taught most of them. Like in Kenya Kwanza, I've taught Josephat Nanoka, I've taught P.S. Omolo, I've taught Professor Kindiki, I've taught the chairperson of the Police Service Commission. I've taught those people of high ranks. But I won't call them my friends because now they can't pick my calls even if I'm in trouble. They just feel like they are ashamed to look at me on the face and say I taught them. Whatever they are doing, decision they are making, they are ashamed
But
to look
Prof,
at me.
it's Prof, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's where the point is. Maybe the teaching that didn't work for them. Just on a lighter note, because maybe you didn't put more to them to make them Kenya, to love their country, and that's why we are in this situation. Maybe you are shouting at them now, but they blame you and say, "Look, you taught me."
No, actually, the thing is that they told me, let me ask you now, why do you think I'm going into more politics than being in the classroom? A professor's job earned me a lot of
Well,
money.
maybe you want to join your students to do what they do
No,
best because it's more profitable.
yes, I'm coming there, but I'm saying I'm joining politics because you sit in the classroom and teach theories of participation, stakeholder theory. You teach corporate governance, stewardship theory. You teach the issue of business ethics, and when they go to the place of work, they find that the chairman of the board is somebody like Simon Bogwa. Now you are sitting in a board with you are running a company as a manager where your chair is Simon Bogwa. Now, how are you able to make a good decision in that organization? So they I'm looking at saying if we can get governance where the working environment allows professionals' voices to be heard, then that works. And I will tackle that one when I reach to the point I want to take thirdly when I talk about restoring the soul of the nation. So let me take a second point just to canvas this thing on patriotism. Because what the nation needs is patriotism. Because if you're patriotic to your tribe, then you are not a nation. So patriotism is a feeling of loving your country, being proud of it. And when you love your country and you're proud of it, then if all of us have that feeling that you can kiss the Kenyan flag or you can kiss the Kenyan emblem, just like you see footballers kiss the t-shirts and the badges of their football club when they score a goal, instead of kissing the tree, Mugumo tree, or for us kissing the lake, I don't know what Luos kiss. I don't know what the Kambas will kiss, or other, I don't know what Kalenjins will kiss. If you have that feeling, you can kiss the Kenyan flag and say, I'm proud. Like you see at the Kenyan athlete, when they finish 100 meters or marathon, when they're doing marathon, when they finally cross the line and receive the Kenyan flag, you can see in their faces what they feel. How many of us would feel that way once we achieve something? So, Wajaluo sisi ni wazuri kushinda Wakikuyu. Why should that be when you score well in this class, when you do well in business, when you do well in any competition? Do you first of all see this a win for your community in terms of tribe? Do you see this as a win for a nation if you're participating on something national? So these are the questions. In Spain, the Catalans felt like they were better than the whole of Spain until they said they want to secede because they even realized that out of the 11 players who won the World Cup, 9 of them came from Catalonia. So they said, why should we make Spain win a trophy and the trophy goes to Madrid? Yet for us, we have the one who won the trophy. Barcelona is around 500 kilometers from Madrid. So those people are feeling more Catalan first before they felt they were Spanish. And that's why they saw they need to secede and form their own nation so that they can feel well about their nation. I think I'm just trying to explain this one to you now. Now, I go to the second one, the third one, where they were talking about a system. So, my brother, there are three things you can talk about. He said that so long as even some of us who talk nicely join politics and the system remains the system, we will just become part of the system. When you hear Raila Odinga talking, you hear somebody called Kaluma talking, you hear Mbadi talking, you wonder whether these were the same people in opposition. So I agree with you, that system is horrible. But I don't think that the system can change people. Some of these people are scams, it's just that we didn't know. Do you think people think Raila has ever changed? Is it that Raila has come into Ruto, then he becomes a different guy? Raila has been like that. Raila has been that throughout. What has helped Raila is Ruto has become so bad that anybody working with him is glaringly now being known. Before, Kibaki wasn't that bad. So working with Kibaki won't make you look very bad. Uhuru wasn't that bad. So working with Uhuru doesn't make you glaringly bad. But now Ruto is just at the other pole. It's like North Pole and South Pole. So if you go to North Pole, you shake hands with him. Like when I saw Raila welcoming Uhuru today in Karen, I felt so bad. I regret having cast my vote. I drove my car from Nairobi to Kenya to cast one vote, just knowing that one vote can count. Then I drove back to Nairobi, risking my life. I wish I slept and had a cup of tea and relaxed and just went for a jog. It was a waste of time. I even went on TV and fought very hard for Ireland until I lost my job in Strathmore, thinking I was fighting for a human being. So those are the feelings we bear. And what I want to say is that if you categorize the system into three, you can join to work for the system. So when you join to work for the system, like Mbadi came, is working for the system. His budget is working for the system. Opio and I came, signed the Kentraku deal. He is working for the system. The guys who signed the Adani, he is working for the system. Tell me any single minister in Kenya who is not working for the system. If you don't work for the system, you leave. So the second category is working on the system, where you know there's a system, but now what are you doing? You are trying to find how you can work on the system to fine tune it, to deliver, for example, what is the national aspiration. Kibaki came in and Kibaki tried to work on the system. When Kibaki came with the Vision 2030, the MTP3 plan, the medium term plans, Kibaki had an idea, but Kibaki never changed the system. He worked on the system, thinking that by working on the system, we leave Kenya better. When he left, everything he had worked had been reversed. All the gains were reversed. So he was working on the system. But now the third option is it possible to work against the system? I think the earlier speaker was thinking that this system is corrupt since 1963. So we completely need to work against it and actually withdraw it, if not uproot it. So now, what is it? What is it that is possible? The choice is yours. The people working for the system will never change anything. The people working on the system might make some marginal improvement, but the people who are going to transform the system by working against it are the real people we need. So you can check. There are people you know their history. Are
Prof,
there people can?
sorry again to interrupt, Prof, but the current president is working on transforming Kenya that you speak about, but we don't
No.
see that change. So as you land and give us that punchline, uh, what are the practical steps? What are the practical steps that Kenya needs to take to you talk
Actually,
about the system and everything we talk about and the issues around it, but in 2 minutes, probably as you learned, give us
yeah.
something that we can work with the young people, older generation, that is practical and we can see change as we
Yeah.
aspire and have an united.
Yeah, so after that, actually, we have finished analyzing the problem, we go to the solution. There is a program I'm going to set up soon. I'll tell you after it has been launched. It's called Restoring the Soul of the Nation. Restoring the soul of the nation is to ignore the issue or accept and move on, forgive and forget. We have always been told that we have to restore the justice, we have to restore the rights. Right means nothing in Kenya. We have to take Kenya back to Kenyans. And that's what actually I mean. This is complete overhaul of the system. And this will require some discussion, something like stop this nonsense of disconscientizing ourselves by calling things like corruption is not a term. Corruption, if it's theft, I like what Radimta said, it's theft. Let's call things what they are. I'm a Catholic, and I've been telling people, don't say, God forgive me my iniquities. Say, God forgive me my sins. Iniquities is like sugarcoating a sin. If a thief steals 1,000, they should be taken to a cell, a police cell, but not to be killed. But if a politician steals 1 billion, equally should be arrested like a thief and be taken to a cell. Disband all these so-called independent institutions and commissions. They are the system to keep things working. Like IPOA is showing people that something is working, but somebody gave evidence IPOA was getting bribe from the policeman arrested in Ojuang's case. So how do you work with IPOA? That is, the word I does not exist. How do you work with IBC, where the word I is the missing word? How do you work with Anti-Corruption Commission, where the word anti is what is not is the most useless word in ESCC, the word anti. They are actually pre-corruption. So we need a system overhaul, restore the soul of the nation, stop conscientizing ourselves. But for the young people, my word for them is that they should study the lifestyle of a butterfly. A butterfly comes from a larva, pupa, then a butterfly that is mature. Politicians want them to stay as a larva that consumes and produces nothing. If they become a butterfly, politicians will be very mad. And that means the self empowerment. I don't want to go too deep because I'm sure you told me in 2 minutes, so I end there. But there is a bill I'm putting across that tells young people let them look for one or two things that, if accepted, and let them fight for something to be accepted, not to be rejected. Because we went to reject the finance bill, then we went home with a cup of tea, no sugar. We had nothing. But if you look at the generation of Timothy Njoya, guitarists, and the rest, I was with Timothy Njoya for a long conversation. He told me that they identified two things. One, they asked Moi, they talked about let's allow the democracy, multi-party system. One. Two, let us not amend, but let us come up with a new constitution. They knew that those two bullets, if they are done, they are going to transform the system. So that's why democracy was there. So these young people, as far as Gen Zs are talking, I'm sorry for them, but they haven't identified one or two things that Ruto must go is not the main call. The call should be, what is it that if we do, Ruto will go? Just like these people identified, if we say multi-party system, two, new constitution, this will send Moi home. What is our two things that if we fight for, we go to the street and bleed for, will come out? But going to the street and saying we are fighting justice for Ojuang. But what is that is going to change the system? That after that, there's no more Juang lying in a mortuary. I was in the postmortem, I cried with all my heart. But just shouting, Ruto must go, Ruto will go, but the system remains. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And we they did change the constitution. We removed Moi, but we didn't kill Moism. That's what I see, because we have Ruto, as surrogate of Moi, and we can tell what he's doing that is not really good for the country. However, uh, as you say, we have to have a pointed approach. I think it's important that we have a specific or a few issues that can be canvassed and pushed. We don't want to remove Ruto and have another type of Ruto, but he must go. It's important that he goes because people have suffered. Dr. Nimrod, you are a doctor, I hope. I hope a doctor of patients or a doctor of letters. It doesn't matter. You have a view. And how do we mend this nation in such a way that we can be proud of it in the days to come?
Uh, Good evening. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Gola. Just to recap from what Professor Gola just reiterated. The confusion here we don't understand is what do we want? What does everyone want? As a person, a human being first, before we go even who you are. So tribe should be the last thing we should be discussing. That's my first critical point. The other thing is people need to understand everyone who's in this planet right now is going to end up leaving this planet. So how do you want to leave that planet? And before you think about the planet, you have to start thinking about your home, where you come from. The politicians we've had since 1963, you look at it, is in a way that these guys were basically going for opulence. Hold as much as you can so you can live large. Now, this is what surprises me. You destroy your own home, your own habitat, your own motherland for the sake of what? Material things. And that's why we come to that point of who are we as a human being, and then what's our root cause, what's our background, like what unite us. Kenyans, So let's forget about anything else. We Kenyans. And you go on social media right now. You look at how other African viewers, you know, we go to school, we read books, we understand. I mean, we kind of suck the books in, and we kind of decipher them based on what our mentality is. But in reality is, who are you as a person? Where do you come from? How's your society? We come to the West, we come and achieve great things. Look around a lot of the first world, a lot of Kenyans. So the people are there to run the country. So when somebody comes out and say that, oh, we take root and we'll do what? That's kind of a silly question, to be honest. Because if you can come to the Western world and create something different, be somebody that the locals, the natives realize your potential and they put you in a position where you can deliver. And that's why you see the society like this. And that's why we go to the economical side, we go to the World Bank, how they control. Mr. Professor talked about the dollar. The dollar wasn't created for America. The dollar was created to create a hegemony into the world. And that's what you see in the bigger picture. Look at what's going around the world right now. Started with, you go back to Iraqi, Afghan, Libya. You look at West Africa right now. You look at Sudan. You look at Congo. Business. Yeah. But then business based on nationalism. As Kenyans, as Africans, Black Africans, what do we have apart from that self-centeredness? That's what destroys our society. So when people come out and say, we get truth and then we do what? I mean, that's kind of taking ourselves like, you take yourself up there and then you drop yourself dead. Well, how can your demand change when somebody come and say we want change, and he thinks that in his mind that we don't know what we want with what the change we were looking for. I mean, it defeats the purpose. Let's be honest. So logically, my point is this, and I want people to start thinking about talk about as Kenyans. Yeah, as Kenyans, what do we want? Huwezi kuwa tajiri unaishi kama Millicent Omanga. The legislator, somebody who's supposed to serve the society, go flash out pure opulence. Well, round the corner, just run 2 kilometers for he lives. Utter poverty. How do you justify that? How does that make sense? Somebody can just kill another Kenyan and walk free. Nothing happens. What? I do. That's the sad part of Kenyans. And that's why kuna mama mmoja hapa ametoka akasema uko tayari kutoa yote. Kuna watu kitambo. Vile we haven't actually get people together to realize like this is the dream we want. We can change this place. Kama tumekuja huku we've actually achieved. What can we not do? Right now, if we take out Kenya, we take out these guys, and we just put a all out there. Every Kenyan who can do something, who is going to expert, come, let's build a home. Like what Traore is doing. First. Things can change so fast. China. Look at China after the Second World War. Look at Dubai. Dubai, the other day I mentioned, Dubai ilijengwa na simiti ya Kenya kutoka pale Bamburi. That's why you go spend your money there. That's why they're taking the money of the country and go buy properties in Dubai. How daft can you be? You destroy your own home. You rob from your own land. Yes, yourself, you call yourself a Kenyan. And that's why when you hear these discussions in online, and even the celebrities, there's a lot of people. I wish I could have a talk show and actually talk to people, because what we're lacking is the honest discussion amongst ourselves. That's as simple as that. We're kind of complicated with a lot of kizungu mingi. Guys, we have to stress back and start afresh and say, listen, We went wrong here, but all is not lost. All is not lost. We can start from here, because the biggest resource in a society to achieve and prosper is the natural resources. Second thing is the human resources. Look at, like I said, and I draw my parallels. You go to Singapore, it was built by the Vietnamese, the Philippines. You go to Dubai, it was built by the Philippines, Africa, and in you go to China, they had the human resource. You look at India, they got the human resource. You look at Pakistan, they got the human resource. Brazil, they go with the human resource and the natural resource. So they kind of, the same approach. Traore is trying to approach. Of course, you're going to face difficulty. Yeah, there's powers who want to challenge you. And that's why we've got the people. Every Kenyan should just come in and, give what you can and see the country change. That is all. Alan.
Thank you, Dr. I think we're coming towards the end of the space. So with your permission, I'm going to have each of the speakers to, Dr. Nimrod, if you can mute your mic.
Yes, I'll do that.
I'd like to allow all the speakers, starting with Japonji and then Western, then Redemptor, and then Prof, in that order, in 2 minutes each to give their concluding remarks on this conversation. As I'm guided that it should be a minute each, so I'd start with Japonji. I give you 1 minute.
Thank you so much. Is it Obeds or Ella? I can't see who's giving the speakers, but I know it's Obeds.
It's Obeds.
Oh, I know I know your voice. I can't see, but anyway, thank you so much for the mic. So in summary, what I can say is that if we can get rid of corruption and press more on accountability, we can do better, because there's impunity in wastage and stealing of our taxes since 1963, which means that they have been stealing, they're not getting satisfied, they are greedy, and we know there's no honor among thieves. And despite doing that, we are still standing, which means there's enough for everyone, So if you look at those corruption cases that have never been solved, you look at the standard gauge railway, overpriced 3.2 billion, Anglo-leasing, Triton, I think, National Youth Service, these pending bills, fraud, 665 billion, COVID-19, COVID millionaires. We have the Golden Bag, we have the SG Aurora, and we have NHIF. So see, the reason I'm pointing those out is because no one has ever been held into account. And what makes you think that if a new scandal happens tomorrow, someone will be taken into account? Those are my fears. And I'm just so, depressed that it took us to have Ruto to realize that the new constitution 2010 means nothing. It's all about the person. Yeah, it took him to realize that. Thank you so much. I can see the hands up, and I land there, and God bless Kenya.
Thank you, Japonji. Weston?
Obets, it's imperative that we accent memory. Memory. No society has ever moved without memory. We'll have to get rid of amnesia, where we wake up and we are surprised at how we are. We are what we are because our history still haunts us. That's the bottom line. Have you ever asked yourself, we are talking about extrajudicial executions and police brutality. Why are Nyayo torture chambers closed to the public? Why? If we are committed to getting rid of police brutality, why don't Kenyans go to Nyayo House and see what those chambers look like? Why? Because we don't want to confront our history, and it's bloody, it's messy, it's rotten, it's ugly. So we run away from it. Oh, who came out? Who is this? And then
we are into personalities. It's not about personalities. It's not. We are designed to fail from the get-go. And we must pause and devise our ways out of this. Redemptor is talking about some very weighty things here. How people can go to a space and just talk about parochialism, ethnic nationalism, Kikuyu exceptionalism. Why would you talk like that? And at the same time, you are opposed to William Ruto. So are you really opposed to William Ruto because he's running the country aground? Or you're opposed to him because you don't think he deserves to be your president? Because that's the deduction from what Redemptor said. We're the majority, we deserve this. Well, as long as we keep running away from such conversations, because they're very incandescent, and these are the conversations that will be on the ballot in 2027. If you don't want to know, the economy may not be on the ballot. This conversation about ethnic nationalism, ethnic supremacy, who is a better Kenyan than another Kenyan? Well, we sweep those things under the carpet because we want to look clever. Talk about the constitution, the rule of law, what. Those things I can guarantee will be on the ballot in 2027. And we will be surprised. How come this was on the ballot? Because we ran away from those things. And we ask, what is happening? So, Animal Farm, what George Orwell is teaching us is that revolutions that are presided over by reactionary characters in societies that are hell-bent on forgetfulness end up nowhere. You end up with even worse characters than the ones you deposed. So don't talk about a revolution after William Ruto. Whenever that happens, you may end up just with the other weird characters like pigs in Animal Farm. Don't run away from history. Confront it, no matter how painful it is. Cowardice will not take us far.
Thank you, Weston. I think that's where you land. Thank you very much. Redemptor, we are burying our heads in the sand. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, very quickly. I have been to the Nyayo House torture chambers. I don't know if it was a special arrangement. We were with the survivors. And they showed us as we were standing down there that because it is in the basement, some people would be executed by being taken on the 27th or 25th floor, and then you think someone committed suicide. The most interesting thing about being there was the people who survived who say this was the room they put a lot of water, this was the flooding room, and some idiot actually tried to destroy it, and you can even see where they were hammering, and then they were told by the architects, if you do that, the whole building comes down. So they really tried to erase the history. Allow me an extra minute. This week, we've seen the survivors and the prisoners of war, or prisoners or political prisoners of that time. Itobu Imanyara, I saw Professor Angodo Kariuki, I saw Wafula Buke speak. And that brings me to, I think, what Western is saying, my shock, that out of the two groups, the people who've stolen the most, the biggest thieves in Kenya, are over 50, 60, 70, 80. If you take the years and the years of the youngest person in the streets, we have then the Gen X, the people in their 50s. The money that has been stolen from this country. And Wafula Buke, I'll finish with his submissions. If you want to go, he was on Fixing the Nation. It's a worth listening. He says we didn't achieve much. We lost because the people we left in power were the top 20 most most wanyama. Those top 20 people who tortured others and who wanted power. And then I see people get into these groups, balkanization in my tribe. And then those top 20 people that have brought Kenya on its knees economically, that some saying we have this magic card of odious debt. But the only reason why I want to share the information I have about odious debt is if I become your president. That top 20 people that are running this country are thieves, people who tortured others, people who are affiliated with the torturers, and people have to wake up to that. I'll still finish by darkness and light are facing each, have a face-off. Evil and good, people of goodwill. You're in this space, I believe you're a person of goodwill. All the good cops out there, please start speaking up. You're the only people who are still keeping some secrecy, thinking that when you allow people to do bad things, if Kenya sings somehow that blue uniform will save you. Every walk of life, I want to see those two groups emerge. There are clever ways you can imagine save this nation. Japonja said we are still standing. No, we are on our knees. That's why I said people's dying wishes. You kill my child and you give me 2 million. I thank you. That is the state of our nation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Redemptor. Prof, I allow you to make your final remarks. But as you do so, I wish to send it to your students and tell them they need to live a nation that is a proper nation. They would not be proud if their grandchildren don't have something to inherit. To you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll make that statement very clear to them because that's one biggest frustration. So, just to go quickly, I like what somebody has said about corruption. But if we don't have the spirit of patriotism, when you don't have patriotism, you start seeing somebody as another tribe. Corruption also thrives because of lack of patriotism. Our guy, our community, our people. When that is not there, patriotism, you'll always see that if Luo steal, I'm happy as a Luo. If Kikuyu steal, the Kikuyus are happy. Those things should end. If we don't bring patriotism back and focus on being Kenyan, we are going nowhere. And let me tell you what, the hope is this way. That time is coming when someone says this, they discover that they can't survive even as a Luo. Like now, when I tell Luos I don't like Kikuyus, I discover that if I look at my bank statement, 85% of them are being paid by someone from Kikuyu land. So I'm asking myself, what am I wasting my time thinking about this? I have not married to a Luo, and my son cannot say he's a Luo or he's a writer. So there's a lot of things here which are going to just force us to change. So that's my hope. And the last hope I have is that there's a generation change. I don't want to classify ourselves in those Gen X and rest. I'm the first one on TV to talk about Gen Zs and to classify them. But let me tell you about how these things should be in Kenyan context. Forget about the Western world. Our first generation is called Mau Mau generation, the people who sent Mzungu home. The second generation, I call them Uhuru generation, the people who fought for freedom. And unfortunately, they fought for it, then they are eating it up. The third generation is called Saba Saba generation, the guys who brought multipartyism and the constitutional reforms. Then the last generation, now we call them the constitutional, the ones who says we have a right. That's why they are putting their flags and the rest. If with this generation doesn't produce anything, then we are stuck somewhere. But if they use this constitution to now bring constitutionalism, then we shall be okay. Because I always believe that Kenyans don't have rights, even if they have the constitution, until we shall have the right person in State House. And someone says very well that Ruto has made us realize the constitution is useless if you don't have the right leader. And now the point is, how do we get this right leader if we are still disconnected? I think that the biggest thing we need is our unity of purpose. And I want that unity to be defined not by saying a group. I identify two things we stand for. Why Gen Zs worked, they nailed it down that let us reject the finance bill. That was economic unity. How can we have another rallying call which is about positive thing that can bring all of us together and say, this is the only thing we want. And anybody who is with us is our cousin. And the nonsense about the cousin using tribalism and ethnic classes should end. I don't want to hear about high cousin. High cousin, my foot. Because that high cousin is actually talking about Kushites. The rest, those are not going to help us at all. Me, I don't even know how my tree looks like. And I want to ask you guys, don't give the fight. This civic education will take us somewhere. Words are not just words, they affect people. I'm sure we are sleeping differently because of what we have discussed. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless Kenya.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, everybody else who's made time to be on the space. And my conclusion is really simple. We have let ourselves down for far too long. The reality is that we have the capacity and the ability for a country that has been said to have a lot of potential, for a country that has always been said to be a good country that has very good human resource, humane people, and everything you can imagine of, has lagged behind because we have bad leadership. Leadership does not vote itself. We Kenyans go to the ballot and elect some of these criminals. We elect some of the killers. We have a responsibility to change that. But as Western says, we must look at the history that we have. It is important to see the mistakes we have made all along. We have been independent for over 60 years. But the best we have done is to have the worst amongst us to lead us. It is something that has to change. I feel bad that some people would say Maraga is uninspiring. Fine, he's an alternative, because we were told in 2022 we had a choice between the bad and the worst, and we chose one of them. Why can't we try somebody else if we're really looking for change? We love politics of noise, politics of insults. That somebody doesn't come off like that, then they're good enough. They're bad, they're uninspiring, they cannot survive, whatever. Kenya has to relook at itself. We are a sick nation. We've been sick. We know our disease. We know the medication. What we don't have is the goodwill and the desire to change it. And the only way is to look back at our history, take our medicine, and we shall be fine. But for as long as we talk and then we wait, we get an opportunity to be called to the table, and I keep saying this all the time, that you get to eat because there are many, they give you something and you get compromised, we will never go anywhere. But again, they say hungry stomachs do not know politics. They first want to eat. So if many hungry people decide we are angry enough not to eat the food we're being given so that we can change, so that everybody else can eat the food, then that's what we need to do. Brutal as it is, they might call him anything that he's saying he is, but he's a scared man. You've seen the many things he's doing is because he can't take criticism and he has no capacity. I'm glad he became president, not because of anything, but because we now know the ineptitude, and he lasts in the line of people who've lied to us. Change this, let it happen, make sure you have your voter's card, but we must guard that and ensure that the system that you talk about does not disenfranchise us. Co-host 254, back to you, and thank you so much. I don't know if your co-host went to sleep.
I think it's very late for old men. They must be snoozing inside and outside the sleep zone. So we'll allow him to take a nap for the night. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As we conclude the talk of the night, I can't thank you enough for sparing time and sitting in this late. And I want to borrow the words of Prof. Ogol, who says it is not in vain that we're having this conversation. So Professor Ogol, I hope sooner than later you'll be able to see the fruits of these talks. And there's one thing also I want to take with me that Western actually mentioned, that in 2027, it will not be the issue of economy that will be voted. We will take the tribalism conversation to that ballot. So how then do we reverse all this before it's too late? As it sits, the country is split, and we need to make this nation so that we all feel we belong and this is our country. Now, there's a comment I would love to read before we call it a night, which is from Kamureni Lin, who says, this is too much rhetoric, elitist talk that can't bring change in the country as it is currently. That is how some of you feel, that we are having elitist talk. And I think I agree. But it depends with the perspective you're using this talk from, because we believe in having conversations that shape how we think, how we feel, and also hopefully reverse what we visualize as a country. That said, Redemptor, you mentioned about Wafula Buke, and it's true. This gentleman has a story to share, so I'll just give a quick bite from that link, and then we can be able to proceed.
Despite the few changes we get, those who must preside over those changes have been enemies of those changes. That's our special contribution to the history of the world. That all struggles and all changes must be presided over by those who oppose those changes. Even if you wanted to form a land commission, right, the chairman has to be the wrong one. If you have to start a Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission, the chairman has to be a perpetrator of murder, you know? And then we have to get a new constitution, the chairman has to be the person who opposed that constitution. So now, how we hope to get out of this mess? is just interesting. I don't know whether it's a curse we can't escape from. But if I look at those who are lining up for succession from ward number 20, all of them are from the past.
And I think that is where I want to leave that conversation from, and I invite you to follow through from the rest. But my takeaway tonight, it's indeed Kenyans feel drained with the state of the nation. Kenyans feel, and that is a majority of us, do feel there is room for change. But I also question, how many of us have tested the presence of power and the luxury that power and authority provides? Is that our goal to leadership or political power? Or is it that we hate too much that we are not part of that team that is enjoying the luxury that comes with access to power? I'll be having that conversation with you this coming Sunday as we proceed with the conversation around the ugly reality check on Finance Bill 2025. Obed, your hand is up. What did I miss? Obed, is your hand up?
Is not up.
All right. Looks like system is saying it's time to go. Have yourselves a great night. My name is Likian Eli on behalf of every other speaker and our co-host for the night, that is 254 for Life, Redemptor, Professor Ogola. I had Western with me, Dr. Nimrod. Earlier on, we had Marabu's Talks. And so many of you that I can't mention the names, including Dinya Kwar. Thank you so much for making time to be here. I hope to see you on the Sunday Spaces, which we host from 10:30 a.m. in the morning, Kenyan time. We'll be discussing about the ugly reality check of Finance Bill 2025. It is actually very interesting because last year, when the parliament was voting for the bill, Kenyans were protesting outside. And maybe this time around, technicalities made sure that by the time the bill is being voted on, Maandamano haifanyiki that same time. So looks like they beat you at your own game, but let's find out how that goes this coming Sunday. See you then. And also you can find time if you have some spare time for us. Join us on Court FM, that is kotfm.co.ke from 8 p.m. Kenyan time tomorrow as I host you on the Midnight Cruise. I'll be very happy to see you, most of them there. And if you have nothing more to do right now, you can head there and have a lovers launch for those of you who enjoy soft music. See you then. Good night and God bless you.